Sleepless in Seattle is a 1993 American rom-com directed by Nora Ephron and stars Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, Bill Pullman, and Ross Malinger. The plot follows a lonely widowed architect who meets a woman via radio show when his son calls in to find someone for his dad. I know, here I go with rom-coms again, but I offer no apologies this time. I'm just a huge Tom Hanks fan. And I wasn't planning at all on reviewing this. I mean, hell, I wasn't even planning on watching this, anytime soon, but it was playing at our local Regal Theater, and my girlfriend loves it, one of her favorite movies, so we had to check it out. I mean, this is far from my favorite Tom Hanks film, but it's still good, still a great performance from Hanks. Also, it's another Seattle movie, so, one of my favorite cities, also living in the Pacific Northwest myself. I'm a sucker for movies where the city is important to the story, almost like another character. I said that last year, not too long ago with Baltimoreans. And yeah, I love that kind of thing. One of my complaints, though, is that the movie ends in New York City. And it just bothers me, man. New York just gets too much of the spotlight, especially back in the 90s. This is a Seattle movie, so, it's kind of disrespectful to me. So I had seen this movie a time or two, back in the early 90s, but it had been long enough that, that I seem to actually remember it like a little bit different. If you haven't seen the movie, and I guess I should say you plan on watching it, pause now, skip ahead like 10 seconds or so, although you maybe have heard this over the years, even if you haven't seen the movie. It's kind of famous for the fact that it's a rom-com where the two leads don't really meet until, they don't formally meet, I should say, until the end of the movie. I actually didn't remember that at all. I remembered it being like they met maybe halfway through or something like that. So I actually think it's kind of brilliant. It's a little bit unique, and it's kind of a bold move in a genre, not exactly known for making bold moves. And it also allows for different storylines to kind of happen simultaneously instead of just having two people that are connected through the whole story. So you've got Sam, played by Tom Hanks, just living with his young son, Jonah, after losing his wife, I think it was a year and a half earlier. The movie actually begins with the funeral scene where it's just Sam and Jonah. And, I have to say that despite all that, it never really wants to be sad. This is not a sad movie by any means. And when you want to, and when you just want to avoid the trappings of a sad story, this movie really has your back. I mean, this is a movie that reminds you that sad things do happen, but this is completely a feel-good movie. Even at points where, I expected there to be some sort of conflict, the writers choose to go in a completely different direction. It's cool. It's got some great Seattle atmosphere and locations, and also Baltimore and, like I said, New York City, but, that's kind of an issue for me. It also has some decent supporting actors like Rosie O'Donnell, David Hyde Pierce, and even Rob Reiner giving us some solid side characters. Rob Reiner especially, effortlessly making jokes in his own style that we all love and miss, and, seeing him again was really cool, even if it's in a 30-plus-year-old movie. At the end of the day, though, this is a Tom Hanks movie, and it's his amazing acting that brings, this all to life, as we know. At the end of the day, though, this is a Tom Hanks movie, and it's his amazing acting that brings us all to life, as he was known for doing back then. I almost forgot how much I loved him growing up, even from a super, super young age, starting with Big in 1988 when I was 6 years old. I loved The Burbs in 89, and Turner and Hooch from 89 also. I was blown away in the theater with my mom in 94 for Forrest Gump. He brought to life Woody the Cowboy from the Toy Story movies. He went to World War II in Saving Private Ryan in 1998, actually, a movie that broke me as a teenager. He was just there for me as I grew up in a scary world that I didn't understand. But I also have to mention Jonah's performance, played by Ross Malinger, because his on-screen chemistry with Tom Hanks worked really, really well for me. Far better than I expected. I just kind of expected him to be the token kid character, not to be insensitive or mean or whatever, but they're kind of, especially back in the 90s, they were just kind of all the same. But this kid brought something to this movie that I didn't expect, and he was really funny. The father-son back and forth thing that they had was really funny, and as someone who was a single dad for a long time, I appreciated that. Jonah is essentially the catalyst here because, though he is struggling with the loss of his mom, it has become obvious to him that his dad is struggling even more. So he calls one of those radio call-in shows to try and find someone for him. And it's a sweet story, and I think this movie has a great script. It's a modern comedic take on the classic, romance movie formula. And it's clever and maybe even an overlooked quality of Sleepless in Seattle. That said, I don't think it's like a perfect movie or anything. It does fall into cheesy rom-com trappings at times. And I'm honestly not really I was never really a huge Meg Ryan fan. I think her story arc is fairly smart, though, with Bill Pullman as her boyfriend, through the majority of the runtime. I'd also shave off like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, if I was being picky. And some people don't like the fact that Meg Ryan's character goes through great lengths to meet Sam, and I do kind of get that. But I think that it's kind of what makes the movie unique, and it's part of what makes it work, and it's not just another rom-com. So I'm giving Sleepless in Seattle 2.5 out of 4 stars. It was fun catching this on the big screen. It's going to get me in a Tom Hanks mood again, I think, and I'm really grateful for that. It's a smartly written movie, especially for a rom-com, and got some pretty big laughs out of me. It's also one for the single dads out there. You guys are killing it, and I know you don't get a lot of credit all the time, but you make a difference. Now go find your Meg Ryan. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.
Subscribe right now, please.